Hi! How many of you started to learn English at a very young age? For example, at 2 years old, 3 years old, or even much younger? Well, that's a good sign because for some people, if they start to learn English at a very young age, then in the future they will have a very good skills of English. That's what our parents always said when they would compare to us to other people to other kids that they started learning English at a very young age. 3 years old or 4 years old, they can speak so fluently. And that's the thing that my parents compared me to other kids too. But for me, I do not think that this is necessary because for English, you do not need to learn English at such a young age in order to be successful in the future. So today I will share to you my adventure because this is a very long adventure that I learned English. I remember that I started learning English when I was around 7 years old. It's not too young, and at 7 years old, it's kind of like the part where you started to learn English the most because at my school, 7 years old is the part where my school just introduced English to me. So at 7 years old, I just know some kind of languages like hello, how are you, I'm fine, thank you, and you. Those are like the most easiest sentence you can say in English, right? So before that, about 5 years old or 6 years old, I do not know any English. And to be honest, I don't even know what English really is. I just thought that it's a game to play. But from 7 years old, I decided to take this language seriously. So you can often see that when I'm speaking right now, some people might say, oh, this girl speaks so fluently. Oh, this girl's so good at English. She must have learned English from 3 years old. Actually, it's not the truth because now in our world, people are being mistaken. They think that for some kids, they speak English fluently. That means that they must have been studying it at such a very young age or for such a baby. Nowadays, there's some very modern mothers that when there's a baby inside their stomach, they started to use their headphone in their stomach so that the baby inside can listen to English. So those are very modern mothers, and it's a very good technique too. But what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to learn English at such a very young age in order to be good at it. Whether you learn at 60 years old or 30 years old, you can still be good at them. Because I remembered I once watched an episode of BTV4 that those 60 women, 60 age, middle-aged women, they learn English and they can still be very good at them. So you don't need to learn English at such a young age to be good at them. So let's continue my adventure. This adventure is a very long adventure. That's why today my speech is all about my adventure in learning English. I started learning at 7 years old because it's like I remember the first day that I learned English at school, I was like the worst because all of my friends, they have already learned English before. And to be honest, I was like one of the worst students that learned English in the class. And then I remember that day there was a center. And I remember that center is Apex English. So they have some flies, they have some kind of posters around, and they accidentally hand it to my mom, which in turn she found out about that center. So from 7 years old, I just take this very seriously. So I started to learn at this center, which my mom, she found out about this center, and then she showed it to me. I don't know, I just thought, oh, this is interesting because there are some really good activities in the center, some very friendly teachers. I'm not a bit shy, I'm a very confident person. For some people, because especially my sister at that time, she's kind of shy, and when she thinks of the thought that we have to talk to foreign people, she's so shy. But I'm not shy at all, that's the best part. I'm so confident, and I thought, oh, this is just a very fun game, a very fun place. You learn and you play at the same time. So I agreed. And on my first day, because normally before you study at any center, they have to have a small test for you so that they can know which class will be the best for you. And I remember that time when I had test there, I didn't learn everything. They asked me, which school do you go to? And I just remember school, okay, school. So I studied Vietnamese in the school I went to. I remember trường tiểu học Đông Hải 1. I said like that. It's very awkward. And she said, oh, okay. My sister, because beside me, she knows English, and she just hooked me and said, no, you're saying it wrong. But I don't know. I just pronounced it. And then after a while, and she asked me another question. She asked me, how old are you? And I said, I'm fine, thank you, and you. How old are you? And I said, I'm fine, thank you, and you. That's the part where I learned I don't even know how to say my age at that time. So you probably said that my English skills at that time is very extremely bad. And they placed me at like the littlies. I studied with all the littlies. I was 7 years old, and I studied with the 6 years old, 5 years old at that time. So this is like the smallest class in the English Center. I did not care. I love being the oldest. I play with them and they play with me also. Instead, they just like, oh, you're so old. Why do you learn our class? You're supposed to learn at the higher level. But I don't care. I just learn at that place. And sooner or later, I don't know why, but miracles start to happen. After a couple of weeks or a couple of months, even though my English skills just improved a little bit, it's not like so magical that I started to become so good at English, but it just improved a little bit. And my pronunciation starts to improve a lot by talking to lots of foreign people. Like I said, I am not a bit shy, I'm very confident, so if you said to me, I'll go talk to that people, I would talk right away. And I'm very eager to learn new knowledge and practice my skills even more. So Apex has really brought a miracle to me, because if it's not for my mom that she introduced me to all of those things, then I would not be able the person that I am right now. Because for one of the most important part is that when you learn a language, when you learn a foreign language, it's the person that supports you. Because, for example, you learn a new language and no one supports you at all. So will you be successful even if you have passion? No. Just like starting a business. People said you're not gonna make it yourself, and you need people supports you, but no one supports you inside your business. So even if you have passion, then you will never succeed, because no one believes in you, no one supports you. That's why my biggest supporter in my adventure, in my journey to learn English, which is my mom, because she supports me a lot, and the good part is that she found a lot of event and also some kind of languages centers and competition for me to take part in. Even though at that time I knew that I'm not gonna be as good as the others, but I just wanna try how good I am. So I remembered I learned that center for about 4 years. I learned exactly 4 years, but learning at that center isn't enough. At home, you have to kind of practice a lot, including all 4 skills: listening, writing, speaking, and reading. So all those 4 skills, because people said that learning at English Center, people will help you, and all of those fancy advertisement like you will be good at English in 3 months, that's impossible if you do not try hard yourself at home. Because at school, it's just one part. At home, it's another bigger area. So at home, I try to, for example, pronunciation, I try to read as much news as possible and practice some words that I do not understand, and I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. Just like in my speech right now, not every word that I pronounce correctly. There's some word that I speak too fast and I mispronounce that word, or there's some word that I pronounced wrong. So you're not always perfect. Imperfections is what make you perfect. That's my favorite quote. Imperfections is what makes you perfect. So for pronunciation, behind me is some books that I enjoy reading. So I enjoy reading at such about 9 years old when I had my first English book ever, which I remember this book right here. This is the first book which I found when I was about 9 years old, and my mom just found me this book on the internet and she bought this for me. And from then on, I started to fall in love with reading books, especially novels in English. So all of those right here is from the same author, which is Jacqueline Wilson. This is my first ever book in English. I love reading those. Yes, from then on, I started to read lots of books, especially for my pronunciation. For listening, I have a very different technique, is that I try to listen to English as much as possible. So when I go sleeping, before bedtime of 15 minutes, I will listen to one story or one news. Mostly I listen from TED Talks or BBC Learning English, VOA, all of those kinds of programs. And even when I'm like doing the housework, doing something which is not related from learning, I will also listen to English as well. For reading, I read a lot of books which like improves my vocabulary, and also for writing, I have a journal. I have a diary. So I have a journal and a diary, so I just learn and write and jot down whatever I think about my life. For example, I try to like write my journal every single day. So I remember I have about 3 journals already. 3 journals. So every day, even if there's nothing interesting, I would just jot down on my diary, like, dear diary, today is blah blah blah. So I try to keep a diary, and I think you guys should keep one too. Write down some important memories that you don't want to miss. And maybe in the future, you can always look back at your diary and say, oh, wrong mistakes, wrong grammar. Now, talking about grammar, how do I learn grammar and vocabulary? Like I said, in vocabulary, I just read lots of books. And then after that, you have to have the skill is after that, you have to have a memorized skills. Teachers nowadays, they teach us by writing words for 2 lines, 3 lines, or 50 times a word. That, for sure, will never help you remember. Because you just write them in order to finish your homework. But you will never remember them if you don't actually learn it. So my way of learning vocabulary is that you have to memorize it and use an example out of the word. For example, I just learned the word as microscopic. And I use a sentence, and I use the word inside a sentence. For example, there are thousands of microscopics in life, including something else. So I try to use that word in a sentence, and I will remember them more faster. I will remember them faster. So also have a notebook. Write all of the vocabulary down, but do not write them many times. That will never help you remember vocabulary. For grammar, I have a special teacher that I usually go there and I learn. But otherwise, I would just mostly learn grammar from textbook. But like I said, you have to have a supporter. So 2 supporters are my mom and my sister. My sister helps me learn grammars a lot. So for grammar, you have to have exercises or like some kind of notes. So for example, today you learn past simple. You will write some kind of notes that you want to write in past simple and just stick them in your desk. That will help you remember a lot because every time you're in the desk, you will see that note of paper and you can remember one more time. Now, after that, after 4 years, because after 4 years, my house no longer have the ability to keep up with the money to learn at the center anymore. So I stopped going to the center and I just learned everything from home. But luckily I have like a group of friends that in the group of friends we usually just kind of like join in and we discuss everything in English. So I have a group of friends including 4 people, me and 3 others, and every competition we would cooperate together and be a team in the competition, which is awesome because like if you're alone, you will never make it. If you're alone, you'll never make it. Because, for example, in a debate competition, debates, right, you have to have a team in order to take part in a debate competition. If you are alone, you don't have any teams. Even if you dream to be in that competition, it will never happen. So since I would recommend you have to have a team when you learn English because it will help you a lot in the future. So I took part in lots of competition, and the biggest part is that you have a lot of prizes. So when you have prizes, why don't you just take part in the competition? Because there was an easy competition, and the prize is super big. It's your chance to showcase your talent. Showcase your talent to the world, and you will be more confident. If you're shy, I have a technique for you. Try to speak as much as you can. Even because normally I'm quite a weirdo, I must say. When I walked alone or when I go to school alone, I would try to just murmur, whisper English to myself, telling stories back to myself. That's kind of weird, but trust me, it works. It works with your public speaking skills. And sooner or later, because when you speak to a large crowd, I'm nervous too when I speak to a large crowd, but just imagine this to yourself that those crowd are just no one. They're just no one. And if they stir, you stir back at them. Don't care about those people's comments or anything else. Just care about your speech and how confident you are. So sooner or later, you'll be better. So overall, this is my adventure. And besides, I love taking competitions. I love to test myself, how good I am. And you might ask me about all this kind of competition like IELTS, SAT, all those kind of things. Don't take them seriously too much when you're still young because IELTS is just for 2 years. When you took part in them and after 2 years you don't use them anymore and it's just a waste of time. So if you really want to use this degree for college, then I recommend you should take it about earlier, 1 year before college. Because don't take them now because it's a waste of time if you're way too young. And for this, I think the best way is that you practice a lot of IELTS tests, which are varied at home on the internet. Or you can go to the teacher's house if you want. But for now, just practice from home because practice makes perfect. Even though in the beginning you got all of them wrong and you're discouraged, don't be discouraged though. If you practice a lot every day and every single day, month after month, years after years, sooner or later your practice will pay off. Yeah, and there's like a competition I love taking, and I will remember, take every opportunity and every chance you've got. Just take them. Even though if you lose, that's okay. You will learn them to be better and you will be a very hardened person in the future. So thank you for listening. Bye.